This is Royanne De Silva, the Managing Director of Dream Aloud Travels, and I would like to wish CBX a happy anniversary. Cheers to a journey of resilience, growth, and success.
The time by Carrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The Business News headlines is brought to you by CBX Wealth Management, making more possible.
Trade gaps, parcel suspensions, and a U.S. economic rebound. Hello, and welcome to CBX Business News for Thursday, August 28, 2025. I am Rochelle Moncrief. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the newscast, locally, Jamaica's trade deficit widens sharply as exports decline and imports edge higher. On the regional front, no packages to the U.S. Caribbean Postal Services suspend parcel shipments amid tariff turmoil. And over on the global stage, a surprise surge. The U.S. economy grew 3.3% in Q2, powered by a slump in imports. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the QMAX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why QMAX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin this evening with Jamaica's external trade performance as new figures from the Statistical Institute of Jamaica reveals widening imbalances in imports and exports. Jamaica's trade gap has deepened, with the country spending nearly 4 times more on imports than it earned from exports in the first 4 months of 2025. Fresh data from the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin show the total imports between January and April reached US $2.48 billion, up 0.3% from US $2.47 billion in the same period last year. The increase was fueled by a 6.2% rise in raw materials and intermediate goods and an 8.1% jump in consumer goods. In contrast, export earnings fell by 5.7% to US $614.1 million, down from US $651.2 million in 2024. The decline was driven largely by a sharp 31.3% slump in mineral fuel exports, traditionally one of Jamaica's strongest earners. As trading partners came into focus, the United States, China, Nigeria, Brazil, and Japan remained Jamaica's top import sources, accounting for US $1.54 billion in goods, a 5.5% increase, boosted by machinery, transport equipment, and food imports. On the export side, the main destinations were the USA, Russia, Iceland, Canada, and the Netherlands, with combined revenues slipping 0.7% to US $444.5 million, again reflecting weakness in mineral fuels. Jamaica National Agency for Accreditation, JANAC, is deepening its global footprint as it remains the only internationally recognized accreditation body in the English-speaking Caribbean. Speaking at JANAC's 2025 CEO's Breakfast and Awards, Acting CEO Dr. Yvette Castell reported that the agency has issued over 60 certificates of accreditation and secured partnerships with global networks.
As an agency, JANAC Global Accreditation continues to thrive. 66 certificates of accreditation have been issued across testing laboratories, 35 testing laboratories, two calibration laboratories, 21 medical laboratories, 6 inspection bodies, and 2 certification bodies. This is indeed a feat, and that has been achieved through the expertise and hard work of our staff, our assessors, and our stakeholders.
She notes that JANAC is also the only regional body to gain recognition from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
We proudly hold mutual and multilateral recognition agreements with the International Accreditation, with the Inter-American Accreditation Corporation, the International Laboratory Accreditation Corporation, as well as the International Accreditation Forum, strengthening our global confidence in the competency of our JANAC accredited laboratories. We are the only internationally recognized accreditation body in the English-speaking Caribbean, and the only regional accreditation body to have been recognized by the US FDA under the third-party certification program, as well as the Laboratory Accreditation for Analysis of Foods program.
JANAC Acting CEO Dr. Yvette Castell. Turning now to a bold economic proposal from the Jamaica Labour Party, one that could potentially change the way this country builds wealth. The JLP is promising to establish Jamaica's first sovereign investment fund, a national savings pool that would invest in global equities, infrastructure, renewable energy, and high-growth industries. But there's a catch. The fund will only be launched once Jamaica's debt-to-GDP ratio falls below 60%, a fiscal milestone the government projects within the next few years. According to the party's manifesto, The Next Chapter, the fund would serve a dual purpose: building generational wealth for Jamaicans and acting as a stabilization buffer during global downturns. For business leaders, the move signals new opportunities. Local companies could benefit from investment in renewable projects and infrastructure, while the country reduces its long-term dependence on borrowing and taxes. Similar funds in countries like Trinidad and Tobago, Botswana, and Singapore have reshaped national fortunes. For now, it remains a promise, but one that could define Jamaica's next economic chapter. And now for news from the Bank of Jamaica on how the currency markets traded today. The Jamaican dollar won against all its counterparts today, ending Thursday's currency trading session. The US dollar is selling for $160.92, the Canadian for $117.30, the pound sterling for $217.37, and the euro's going rate is $188.33. And now for news from the JSE on how the local equities markets traded today. In Thursday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 105 stocks, of which 43 advanced, 46 declined, and 16 traded firm. The winners: Sagicor Real Estate X Fund, Express Catering, Jamaica Producers Group, and R.A. Williams Distributors. The losers: Caribbean Assurance Brokers, JFP Limited, Cygnus Real Estate Finance USD, and Berger Paints Jamaica. The main index advanced by 420.73 points, or 0.13%, to close at 316,147.05 points. The junior market index advanced by 28.26 points, or 0.84%, to close at 3,394.34 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
In today's Market Education Feature, as we continue our election season coverage, we take a closer look at the term First Past the Post, or FPTP. This is the electoral system used to elect members of Parliament, MPs, to Jamaica's House of Representatives, the lower chamber of Parliament. Jamaica is divided into 63 constituencies. In each one, voters cast a ballot for a single candidate, usually representing a political party. The candidate who secures the most votes wins the seat. The party that captures the majority of seats across constituencies forms the government and takes control of the House of Representatives. FPTP is valued for being simple, fast, and easy to count, but critics warn that it can produce disproportional outcomes where a party wins the most seats without winning the majority of votes due to voter turnout and the structure of the system.
The Market Education Feature was brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Diamond Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Let's all get fit. This summer's a drip. Hip dips and split. Power in the mind, let's get healthy with it. Sometimes the body's so hard, but the body wants it. And then your head is so home, and it's so like this. So we gotta go 1, 2, 3. One more now. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. One more now. 1, 2, 3. One more now. 1, 2, 3, go.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. Postal services in Guyana, Belize, and Grenada have moved to suspend the shipment of parcels and packages to the United States as businesses across the region brace for the fallout from Washington's new tariff regime. The Guyana Post Office Corporation has suspended all parcel shipments to the United States following Washington's decision to end the long-standing de minimis exemption that allowed duty-free imports under US $800. The change, which takes effect August 29 under Executive Order 14324, means all packages entering the US will now face tariffs. Letters and documents remain unaffected, but Guyana says shipments routed through US hubs to destinations like Australia, New Zealand, and Uruguay will also be halted until further notice. Belize has taken similar action. The Belize Postal Service stopped accepting goods bound for the US this week, warning that senders must now cover duties from the first dollar. Local vendors, especially in San Pedro, say the move could cripple small businesses that rely on online sales and exports. In Grenada, the Postal Corporation's board is still reviewing the impact, but officials admit higher cost and uncertainty are likely. For the next 6 months, carriers may opt for a flat duty of US $80 to US $200 per parcel, but long-term rates are expected to range from 10 to 50%. Regional businesses are bracing for higher cost, reduced competitiveness, and major disruption in trade with their biggest market. St. Lucia's business process outsourcing BPO industry is set for a major lift, with KM2 Solutions expanding its operations at Orange Grove and creating more than 300 new jobs. Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre, in announcing the development, says the new facility will push KM2's local workforce to about 1,000 employees once the expansion is completed later this year.
Over 300 new jobs are going to be created through KMT Solutions, KM2 Solutions. They are expanding in St. Lucia at Orange Grove, and we're going to be adding approximately 300 new jobs. When the expansion is complete, there are going to be 1,000 new jobs created at KM2 in the new facility at Orange Grove. That is in addition to what they employ now.
Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Philip J. Pierre. In other news, Barbados' financial sector is bracing for disruption as the central bank moves ahead with plans to launch BIMPay, the island's first instant payment system, in March 2026. While the initial rollout will link banks, credit unions, the stock exchange, and government agencies, analysts say the real economic shift will come when non-bank financial institutions and fintechs gain access. Licensed money transfer operators, mobile wallet providers, and digital-first startups will be able to plug into the real-time payments rail, opening the door to new products, lower transaction costs, and broader financial inclusion. For small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, the system promises a major cash flow advantage. With settlement in under 10 seconds, businesses will no longer face delays in receiving funds, improving liquidity and reducing reliance on physical cash. This could cut operating costs for retailers and expand market reach for micro-entrepreneurs who depend on mobile money solutions. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 22 securities, of which 5 advanced, 7 declined, and 10 traded firm. Today's winners are Trinidad Cement, Point Lissa's Industrial Port Development Corporation, Massey Holdings, and Guardian Holdings. While leading the losers are Prestige Holdings, Trinidad and Tobago NGL, National Enterprises, and Grace Kennedy. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All TNT index declined by 0.09 points to close at 1,442.10. The composite index declined by 0.56 points to close at 1,001.54. The cross-listed index declined by 0.15 points to close at 74.23. The SME index remained at 96.40. And we take a short break. But please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
Hello everyone, I'm Kiran Maharaj of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and I just want to wish CBX a very happy anniversary. Thank you CBX for keeping us informed, and may you continue to grow globally, making strides everywhere. Best wishes.
Introducing the Corporate Services Unit, your go-to experts for corporate secretarial solutions. We offer statutory compliance, efficient minute taking, registered office address services, management of board and members meetings, setup and maintenance of corporate registers. Stay ahead with our proactive approach to new regulations. We operate under the Trust and Corporate Service Provider, licensed to the JCSD Trustee Services Limited. We're here to simplify your corporate journey, no matter the size of your company. Contact the Corporate Service Unit today and let's streamline your compliance journey together, because your success is our business.
How may I assist you today?
I want to open an account for me and my son.
That's great. Let me see your documents. I understand you want to know about our savings account. Let me show you a few accounts and the benefits of each account.
Why do you need so many documents from my mommy?
It's called KYC, Know Your Customer. This helps us to protect you and treat you right. Thanks for the documents. Take a look at this brochure. Let's discuss savings accounts. A savings account is an interest-bearing deposit account. Customers with savings deposit accounts are covered up to $1.2 million per ban, so you don't have anything to worry about.
This financial literacy tip is brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, promoting financial inclusion. For more information, visit our BOJ Real Talk playlist on our YouTube channel.
Welcome back. In international news, the U.S. economy rebounded strongly this spring, shaking off a first quarter downturn linked to President Donald Trump's trade tariffs. The Commerce Department says gross domestic product grew at an annual rate of 3.3% between April and June, better than its initial 3% estimate and a sharp reversal from the 0.5% contraction in the first quarter. The turnaround was driven by a nearly 30% drop in imports after businesses had stockpiled foreign goods ahead of tariffs earlier in the year. That reversal alone added more than 5 percentage points to growth. Consumer spending picked up to 1.6%, while private investment slumped nearly 14%, the steepest decline since the pandemic. Federal spending also contracted. A key gauge of the economy's underlying strength, consumer demand and private investment, excluding trade and government, rose 1.9%, showing modest but steady momentum despite the turbulence of Trump's tariff policies. But while the broader economy shows signs of strength, one of America's oldest retail giants is rewriting its own future. There is a seismic shakeup in U.S. retail healthcare as Walgreens Boots Alliance has officially become private. Sycamore Partners has closed its acquisition of the 124-year-old pharmacy chain, pulling it from the NASDAQ and breaking apart its once vertically integrated model. From here, Walgreens, the Boots Group, Shields Health Solutions, CareCentrix, and Village MD will operate as separate standalone companies, ending decades of consolidated operations. The transition comes just days after Walgreens was dropped from the S&P 500, replaced by Interactive Brokers. There's also a change at the top. Staples CEO Mike Motts will replace Tim Wentworth. Motts brings deep retail experience as Walgreens looks to stabilize after years of shrinking store footprints and fierce competition from online delivery. Analysts say the deal could reset the pharmacy giant's strategy, but also signals how far the industry has shifted under the pressure of e-commerce, new healthcare models, and private equity. And as corporate America restructures, Wall Street is focused squarely on the bond market, where a drop in yields signals investors bracing for Fed rate cuts. The yield on the 10-year U.S. Treasury note held below 4.25% on Thursday, its lowest level in 2 weeks, as markets weigh how aggressively the Federal Reserve will cut rates this year. The move was led by shorter maturities, with investors betting on multiple rate cuts as the Fed cites growing concerns over the labor market. But longer-dated yields stayed supported by stubborn inflation risk and uncertainty over White House influence on the central bank. The pressure intensified after Fed Governor Lisa Cook filed a lawsuit against President Trump, who has sought her removal while publicly demanding lower rates. At the same time, leading indicators showed services inflation picking up ahead of key PCE inflation data due Friday. The standoff underscores the delicate balance facing policymakers between a weakening jobs picture, rising political pressure, and inflation that has yet to cool decisively. Meanwhile, in Europe, one of the region's biggest automakers is tightening its belt at a landmark factory in Italy. Automaker Stellantis has signed a new 5-month deal with unions to extend reduced working hours at its historic Mirafiore plant in northern Italy. The scheme, running from September 1 through January 31, is aimed at lowering labor costs at a time of soft demand for cars built in Italy. The agreement means workers will face a temporary cut in pay, a trade-off unions say is necessary to preserve jobs. Similar arrangements have been struck at Stellantis' other Italian factories this month. Mirafiore in Turin is the birthplace of Fiat and once one of Europe's largest auto plants, but it has been in decline for years as production shifted elsewhere. Stellantis is hoping to breathe a new life into the site with the launch of a hybrid Fiat 500 city car in November. Still, labor leaders remain cautious. Jean Manore of the Kiel union urged Stellantis to assign more models to Mirafiore, warning that one new hybrid alone won't be enough to secure the plant's future. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Don't never, ever, ever wanna calm down. No, no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, Jamaica's trade deficit widens as exports slip, imports edge higher. Regionally, Caribbean Postal Services suspend U.S. parcel shipments as a new tariff regime looms. And internationally, U.S. economy expands 3.3% in second quarter of 2025. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rochelle Moncrief. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
I'm Alexia Beckford. You're watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.